All right, since tomorrow we are dedicating the whole show, the whole broadcast day here at KTRS to the St. Louis Men's Group with Cancer. It's a day we donate, we give up for raising money for St. Louis Men's Group against cancer. So we can't have the board meeting on Thursday. We decided to have it on Wednesday, so we had to shuffle a couple of things around. Regular Jane Duker. Jane, Chief of Staff to former Governor Nixon.
Former Governor Holden.
Thank you very much. Also an attorney here in town. Good morning, Jane Duker.
Good morning, everyone.
Jay Kanzler, who is an attorney, a filmmaker, as well as making some news himself. He bumped me off of Fox and Friends earlier in the week, but I will not hold that against him.
No, not at all.
Mr. Jay Kanzler. Jay, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And new to the panel, President of the NAACP, St. Louis City, Adolphus Pruitt. Adolphus, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you.
And hopefully you can become a semi-regular and get you on in the panel from time to time. Let's open up with, we'll start with you, Jay. We're all sort of have skin in the game with this in terms of we're all associated with it in one way, shape, or another. But the story now is it goes to the grand jury. Bob McCulloch is the county prosecutor. The governor can take away his rights, and there seems to be a fight brewing between the governor and the county prosecutor. What do you think should happen?
Well, Bob McCulloch has been a prosecutor here in St. Louis County since 1991. I've never, in all my time of practice, heard someone suggest that Mr. McCulloch isn't fair, isn't honest, doesn't do his job with integrity. It is his job. It would be the same thing as someone going to Jay Nixon and saying, you know what, it's time, why don't you step down as the governor and let somebody who, after his statement last night, has a little less opinion about what's going on. That's not the way things work. You let the process play out, and I think the grand jury at the end of the day, and then if it goes from there, the jury itself will make decisions here. Bob McCulloch has every right, and I think should. That's why we elect him to do his job, and this is part of that.
Adolphus Pruitt, should Governor Nixon take Robert McCulloch off the case?
You know, I don't know whether the governor should or should not, but I think let's be fair. I'm not familiar with Bob's record completely over the 24 years he's been in office, but I think the African-American community has raised some concerns. I think those concerns are grained and based on something. I haven't had the time to sit down and look at it, so I'm going to assume a lot of those leaders know what they're talking about. You know, at the end of the day, it could be problematic. I don't see why it makes a difference if he's removed and it's a neutral party put in there. If enough people are concerned about it, at the end of the day, it's all about justice, and somebody else should be able to deliver it as much as he. But I will say this: the one thing I'm more confused about, and maybe the counselor, both counselors can help me. You know, normally when I'm used to people taking something to a grand jury, they sense that their crime has been committed and they're seeking charges for a certain crime. And that's what I thought. So I don't know if he's seeking charges based on a certain crime he think has committed, or we just throwing everything in front of grand jury and say, hey, if you all
figure it out.
You figure it out.
That's a great question.
No,
that is a great question.
It's a phenomenal question, and I think they can instruct. And McCulloch said the charges could range from murder down to no true bill, which means they don't indict. So I suspect that he is going to instruct them, because it's in some ways it is similar. He will instruct them on the law, and so I think. But I think it's a genuine question to ask Bob himself, because I think he would tell you. But I think when I heard him talk about the different charges, he said they could range from murder 1 all the way down. And so I think that the jury could, and they can instruct on lesser included offenses. And so
okay, but for the non-lawyers like me out there, the only thing we know about grand jury is what we see on Law and Order. And we know that when they go in and present in the grand jury, they are adamant, and so they are an advocate to try and get the grand jury to indict.
And that's what I thought.
I think that's his point.
What I thought.
Is he going to vigorously try and get an indictment, because that's what prosecutors do on TV?
I would say this case is, well, first of all, stop watching Law and Order. But second, this case is unlike any other case. This isn't just about presenting evidence to the grand jury. There's a whole lot more there. There's a whole lot of emotion and tension and politics here. Oftentimes, you're absolutely right. Prosecutors have limited resources so that they don't typically go to a grand jury with something unless they believe that a crime has been committed. Why would you waste your time otherwise? Now, I will say, oftentimes they will wait a little longer and investigate and complete the fact gathering before they take it to the grand jury. I think there's been a push to get this before the grand jury as quickly as possible, and this was going to the grand jury almost no matter what. It had to because of the emotion here. I think prosecutors go before the grand jury and they present their case, and I hope they do it in a way that is fair. They are not there to win cases. That's not their job. Their job is to seek justice and protect the community. And I think Bob McCulloch will present all the evidence as it's been laid out and let the grand jurors then decide.
And this is the other timing issue. What people don't realize, and I know that everybody wants to rush, and that is completely understandable. But you don't, once you issue an arrest, because I know that's what everybody seems to be talking about is we want an arrest now. When you do that, from a timing standpoint, speedy trial rights are invoked as soon as you arrest someone, which means in Missouri you've got, is it 60 or 90 days that you have to go to trial. And that timing problem right there is one of the reasons why you go to the grand jury in order to get all of the evidence presented. And he's going to present it as it comes out because it's not all done. Mm-hmm. And if you do an arrest early, then it forces the prosecution into a time frame that is untenable for anyone in those circumstances. So there is a justifiable reason to wait for an arrest and do it through the grand jury so that once that comes out, then a lot of the evidence gathering has occurred and it makes presenting for trial more effective.
Yeah, but the difference is that the folks who are doing the protesting, they've been in McCulloch's court in the county jail, and they don't go to trial in 90 days. They don't, this speedy trial, they don't get that.
Right, but the defendant is the one that waives that. The law requires that there is a speedy trial unless the defendant waives it. And if you're the defendant in this case, I think it would inure to your benefit to not waive speedy trial because you want to try to get him to throw it all together and it falls apart. So you can't assume that, that this defendant would necessarily waive speedy trial. So I think there's some timing issues that if clarified might make people feel better that it's not games being played for the wrong reason. And so you want this case, and that's for the Fed's benefit too. And let's not forget, the federal, FBI, DOJ, they are all over this. And I guarantee you, if there's evidence out there that they feel like Bob McCulloch's not presenting, that in and of itself could be investigated as a separate civil rights violation against the prosecutor. So I am comfortable that with oversight from the feds, and I have no doubt that they're going to do that, and I think Eric Holder is being vigorous on this, and I think he's right to do that. And I think crawling up and making sure that he does that, I think McCulloch knows that he could be under indictment by the federal government for his own civil rights violations if he doesn't play fair.
All right, let me go back to Jane Duker because you clearly avoided the question, Counselor.
Oh.
Should Governor Nixon take this away from McCulloch? And what McCulloch said this morning on the show, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think that that based on and the things you're hearing about why Mr. McCulloch ought to recuse himself. One, the fact that his father was killed by someone in the line of duty, or he has friends that are or family members that are cops, that has existed for 27 years. So the idea that somehow disqualifies him now is completely in my mind, untenable under the law and untenable from a fairness standpoint. I understand there's been controversial cases that the African American community has not been pleased with that he has handled. But I don't think they rise to the level that he has a duty to recuse. And so if I agree with him that he has a duty until taken off, there's nobody else to do it. And so I believe if the governor wants him off, he needs to take him off. And I believe that, Bob McCulloch has sworn to do his duty and he should do it until they take him off.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but let's be fair. Everything about this situation, a lot of it has been driven and decisions has been made based on trying to ease the public concern, create this overarching view of transparency, and to try to bring some peace
and healing.
And healing. And if removing Bob McCulloch would add to that situation, would add to the peace, add to the healing, and would put one more candle out that we don't have to deal with burning, why not do it? It's not like on an ongoing basis. He's prosecuting the cases anyway.
Well, I agree with you, and then I would suggest that we also take Governor Nixon off of this and put somebody.
Well,
in.
the governor's not on it. I'm
he was the one controlling.
He's not on it.
He was the one controlling the state highway patrol and how it was handled. And that has been a complete disaster up till last night.
He's not handling the prosecution.
But I think the point is that Bob McCulloch has clearly stated he's not going anywhere.
Sure.
So the only way Bob McCulloch is off this case is if Jay Nixon does it. Yeah. And I think Jay Nixon hasn't. And I think the problem Bob McCulloch is saying is that, hey, I'm doing this. I'm not going anywhere. Either support me or kick me off.
Right. And I think it's a fair question. And so I'm asking, will the NAACP call on the governor to remove Jay Nixon?
No, to remove Bob McCulloch.
Oh, yeah,
I'm supporting the other.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's not what I'm saying. Sorry. Thank you for correcting. Will the NAACP support calling Governor Nixon and saying to remove Bob McCulloch? Because I do think it has to be now. Settle it.
Yeah, I think that's something we wouldn't have a problem doing. I think that we are as much in support of what the community, 26,000 signatures. Mm-hmm. If we can put some folks to ease, let's be realistic. The face of the prosecutor is not what this thing should be about, and we should remove that question from. Yeah,
McCulloch gave me out. I think
hold on. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I want to make sure I understood you correctly. Is the NAACP calling for Governor Nixon to remove Bob McCulloch from the prosecutional case?
I can say that so far, in talking with my national president, our state president, and other local leaders, we'll support in what the community is asking for as a means of extinguishing one more flame that is distracting people from what this is all about.
And I would ask this.
Do it quick.
So if that happens, and again, and I think that I support Bob McCulloch 100%. But if it turns out that that's the governor's decision, fine. Then who chooses the new prosecutor based on what criteria? What says what's to prevent the next?
That would be the governor.
But based on what criteria? Does that?
Hey, he was attorney general for 20 years. He can find a lawyer.
No, I'm saying, does that prosecutor have to be of color? Does that prosecutor have to be someone from St. Louis City? St. Louis County, outstate.
We've done this before with the rehearing of Reggie Clemens' case. It was a judge from outstate that came in and did it. I don't think that's a problem.
I don't think. Yeah, I agree with you, Adolphus. I think logistically it's not difficult, and I think it can be done. And to me, this needs to be settled.
Yeah,
it's time.
It needs to go
Pull
away.
the trigger. And and the headline was, well, he hasn't decided yet. I mean, McGraw, you asked him on Saturday. The governor was aware as of Saturday that he had this power. And now he's saying, "Oh, it's getting too late." Well, no, you've known since Saturday. Pull the trigger.
That's Jane Duker, former chief of staff to Governor Holden. That's Adolphus Busch, president of the St. Louis City.
Pruitt.
Adolphus Pruitt. I'm sorry.
I take the Bush
and the bank account.
I take that one too.
Along with a case of beer, right?
We're cousins.
It's been a long week. President of the NAACP St. Louis, Adolphus Pruitt, and Jay Kanzler, attorney and filmmaker.